Welcome back to Go Gaddis Real Estate Radio right here on AM 920. The answer in this segment. Do stage homes sell faster? Is staging even something that's worthwhile to do? Is it fact or fiction that staging makes your home value go up? We're going to chat with an expert during this segment. You're listening to Go Gaddis Real Estate Radio. I'm Cleve Gaddis, and I'm here to make real estate clear and simple and worry-free. And if you want to connect with us, it is so easy. Go to gogaddisradio.com. You can ask questions, make comments, push back, share ideas with us, sign up for our podcast and our YouTube channel. You can do all of it right there. I'd like to welcome Jan Smith, who's the owner of Design to Sell Staging. Welcome, Jan.
Thank you, Cleve. I'm glad to be on your show, and thanks for having me.
It's so good to have you back. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a couple, I guess maybe a year or so since I was on the show before, but thanks for having me back.
Absolutely. Can I ask you a quick question before we get started? You may or may not know, but unit sales in the United States are going to be at their lowest level in about 30 years, since 1995. Are you noticing it in your business that there's just less homes to stage, or are you finding that because the market is soft that you're getting more and more business?
So the latter. I am getting a lot of calls right now, which is historically not the case. Typically this time of year is slow.
Yep.
Just when school goes back. But right now we're getting a lot of calls, a lot of vacant properties. Just going into this time of year, I think the realtor is realizing the importance of listing a house that's not empty and cold, but something where the buyer can connect. So we're seeing an uptick in our business because of the market.
That's so interesting. I hadn't even thought about asking you that question, but I think when I really think about it, it makes perfectly good sense that when the market is a little more difficult for people, for sellers particularly, it makes sense for them to spend a little more time and effort and energy getting their home staged. So my question for you, and I'm going to ask you a couple of questions that were not on the list that we actually talked about previously, if you're okay with that. And I have seen numbers that go anywhere from increasing the sales price of a home by 1% to increasing the sales price of a home by 10% when they are staged. Do you have any idea what number is right within that range? It seems to me like those are just sort of guesstimates.
So when we're talking, the broad market, the range can be broad.
Yep.
But we're talking about the Atlanta market. I think what we're seeing is a lot of agents are seeing at least, realistically, at least a 1 to 5% increase in the sales price when you're comparing a staged home versus a non-staged home on the same street. That's kind of, on average, what we're looking at.
So let's say the average sales price of a home in Metro Atlanta was, say, $500,000, because it's somewhere close to that for the single-family detached. Mm-hmm. So that means that your estimate is that the value would increase somewhere between $5,000 and $25,000.
Exactly.
So let's just say it cost $2,000 or $2,500 to stage the home. So even at a 1% increase in sales price, you're doubling your money. And if you're spending $2,500, let's just say again, and you're getting $25,000, then that's a 10x return.
Right. So it's really a no-brainer when you put the numbers, just like you said, and I always like to say that staging is always less than a price reduction. So when you see the seller taking, like you said, the significant price reduction, you do the math and you realize that, just that upfront staging could be, over 100% return on your investment upfront. And so it's really a no-brainer. And especially when you're talking relative to numbers, when you're talking $500,000 home, but when you get it up in the higher price points,
it could be
we're
even
talking
bigger.
Even more money left on the table.
Yeah, so really we're talking about a minimum at a $500,000 price range of doubling your money. And I think that is just quite significant. So let me play devil's advocate for just a minute. Mm-hmm. I am a home buyer in Atlanta, Georgia. I have been in real estate a long time, so I can see what can be done with a home regardless of whether or not there is anything in it. Now, my opinion is that very few buyers actually can do that. What's your opinion on that?
So your average buyer has little imagination. So when you have a buyer who's walking into, say, a vacant home, they want to connect emotionally with the property, and they also want to, number one, see how their furniture or how their existing furnitures will fit
Yeah.
or not fit.
Yeah.
So it's
Right.
just important. Buyers only know what they see
Uh-huh.
and not the way it could be. And so it just goes back to the concept of the model home in the new construction neighborhoods. The buyer wants to see it set up. They
Right.
don't want to have to figure it out themselves, and that's really a big value, not only for the buyer, but I mean for the seller to get the home sold. But when the buyer buys the home, they see it already set up, and so it's kind of they don't have to reinvent the wheel at that point. So it's kind of a service to both the buyer and the seller.
And is it that, when a buyer can put their eyes on, for example, how a room is used? Let's just say it's a bonus room that in this case is used as a
Hmm.
game room.
Right.
Is it that because they can see the way it's set up, they can sort of see themselves in the story that's happening? Because I will bet, and I could be totally wrong, you correct me if you disagree, but I would bet that the percentage of buyers who buy a home and then set it up the way it was staged or decorated during the listing is probably a very low number. If I'm guessing, but am I wrong?
No, I think you're right. I mean, you could be, I mean, it's not, it's hard for me to say because I don't go back to
Yeah,
see
yeah, yeah,
how
yeah.
the buyer
Yeah,
sets it
well, and
up.
me neither. Me
But I
neither.
can tell you that we get more calls than you would think for the buyers that actually want to buy the furniture that's set up in the staged home, because then they don't have to think about anything. They can, it's just kind of like buying a furnished home. They want to have it already set up. So the big, key phrase is turnkey. A
Yeah,
lot of the generation now wants turnkey.
yeah.
So it's just being able to take that one thing off their plate to figure out how to, lay out the furniture.
In say 2005 to 2012,
Hmm.
maybe let's say 2000 to 2012, buyers I think would go into a home, and even if it needed some work or didn't match the right condition, they would buy it and then maybe get a home equity line of credit or something like that to fix it up. But it seems like from my perspective that has almost gone away. If
Right.
they can't spend the money, pay what they need to pay at closing, pay what they want to pay on a monthly basis. If they cannot make that work without having to do any additional work, in many cases, they're just not interested. They just move on
It's
to
a
something else.
it's a deal breaker
Yeah.
because this generation, well, I'm just millennials, just,
Younger.
the
Yep.
the younger generation, they want turnkey. They want at maximum, they want to clean the carpets.
Hmm.
They may want a fresh coat of paint, but beyond that, they're wanting it to be ready. They're wanting all and you see a lot of the whites, a lot of the fresh
Yes.
palette, the clean palettes, the clean lines. And so that's what we try to do when we stage.
Right.
So I know one of our questions was, buyers have a particular style and taste, but we try to keep it very neutral to capture that the biggest um, part of the buyer
Yeah.
pool that
kind
we
of
can.
kind of like they would
Right.
do in a model home. Now,
Model home, right?
they'll typically do a few things in a model home that are kind of far out just to get people's attention.
Designed,
Yes, but in
right? Higher,
general,
right?
the furniture could go in almost any home. So,
Versatile,
my question for
exactly.
you is if someone is listening and they have their home for sale or they're thinking about selling their home and they're thinking, "Hey, I need to understand what staging would cost for my home."
Mhm,
How would they
mhm.
reach with you? How would they reach you? What's the easiest way to connect?
So the easiest way, you can go to my website,
Okay.
which is www.design2sell staging and redesign.com.
Okay.
And there's a form you can fill out, and it
Okay.
comes directly to me. So you can just give me basic information, as much or as little, and then I can respond same day and get a quote over. And we work with vacant and occupied homes, so it
Right.
just depends on what the seller. A lot of times I get the call from the realtor, but a lot of times,
Right.
sometimes the homeowner will contact me directly. So it just depends on their need, but the website is the best way, and that has my phone number as well.
And that's design to sell
Sell
staging
staging
and design.
and
No, sorry,
redesign.
design to sell staging and redesign.
.com.
.com. Perfect. And if you are listening and you're like, I can't remember all that, no problem. Just go to gogaddisradio.com, click on contact us, say, hey, let me talk to the staging expert. And Ann Daniels, who helps write these shows, will make sure that we get those two hooked up. We will get you connected with her. So real quickly, and we've only got about a minute and a half left in this first segment, and you're going to stay with me for 2 segments, right?
Yeah, I am. I'll be here.
Awesome. Question: can a well-placed sofa or even just a little splash of color actually boost a home's price? We had a situation, and I'm sorry to ask a question and then keep talking, and I apologize.
No, you're good.
But we had a deal where we kept getting feedback that the family room was plain. And we literally took the pillows off the couch and put some pizzazz pillows on the couch, took new pictures, put it back online, sold the house within a couple of weeks. I don't know if that's what made the difference or not, but can something like a sofa or some color somewhere, can it make a difference in getting the home sold?
Of course, yes, definitely. I mean, I have a lot of different situations or examples, but I think one that comes to mind is we had a property that was occupied, and the owner actually had sofas that were needed to be toned down.
Yeah.
So
they were too much.
They had right. So
Okay.
it was too much. It was a lot of red, and
Okay.
red used to be the color. The red. So we basically took out the accent pillows that were on the sofa,
Okay.
and we put in some nice cream neutral,
Soften it up.
kind of toned down the red a bit. And then they had a reddish piece of art that was kind of tying in over the fireplace. So we toned that down, and it actually changed the whole feel of the room, and it opened it. It really made a difference just taking some of the color out and neutralizing it.
Yeah.
Like you said, it just, and just positioning the love seat where when you walked into the room, you weren't walking into the back of it.
Yep.
We just repositioned it, added some different pillows, and it was amazing.
Jen, we've got to take a quick break. We're up at a hard, fast break here. But when we come back, we're going to keep talking staging. It's not just decor, it's actually strategy. So stay tuned. We'll be back.